Welcome to the Animation Industry Podcast. My name is Terry, and when I was in Vietnam, I tried as many coffee varieties as I could, and condensed milk coffee was my personal favorite. Today I'm chatting with Alexandre Siqueira about how he produced and animated the short film Purple Boy. In addition to being a contender for this year's Oscars, Purple Boy has been selected for over 140 festivals, including the Annie Awards, and it won the grand prize in Anima, Brussels International Animation Film Festival. Now, Alexandre is an independent filmmaker who studied animation at La Poudre in France, and in our chat he shares how he gets funding for his work, as well as how he built his team and made his storytelling stand out amongst all the other short films. But first, this episode is sponsored by the awesome team at startastudio.com. Startastudio is a new online school focused on the business side of animation. They have both free and paid courses, an online community, and downloads to help you succeed in your animation career and build your own cool, creative, and viable animation studio. You can use the unique discount code AIP as an animation industry podcast in their checkout to save 20% on their popular Pro Studio Startup course. So whether you're looking to up your freelance game or plan and launch your own animation company, check out startastudio.com. Now, let's jump into the chat. Hi, Alexandre. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's excellent. I'm excited to chat about your film Purple Boy. I just gave it a watch. It's very intriguing, and the animation and storytelling is very beautiful. So I'm wondering, can you tell me about the film?
Well, yeah, that was a very long adventure. I mean, it took, as you know, 8 years to do it, and so all the idea it came up with a visual concept of this child that sprouts in the garden like a seed. So that was the first idea I had on my mind, and a few months or maybe a year later, because I wrote many scripts, and someday I realized that I didn't know exactly which gender or which sex this child has. So I started to question it, and it was fun because I realized that, oh, we can't see its body, so maybe it will be interesting that the identity will be different of the biological sex. So that was the first time I had this idea to work about gender identity. And after that, I started to read a lot about this topic. I watched a lot of films, and I met a very interesting person. He's a Brazilian writer and the first trans male being operated in Brazil, having a surgical intervention, and he helped me a lot to work in the subject. Unfortunately, he died. He passed away on 2018 with the lung cancer, but he was definitely one of my main reference, and his name is João Neri.
Okay, all right. So I think it's very interesting that you started exploring this idea, a picture in your head, and realized that it didn't have a gender. And in the film, as he's growing in the ground, you just see his head. I guess I don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen it. But what did you said you did all this research? You talked with this trans person. What did you learn through the process? Because this film also took you 8 years to make, like you said. So I'm sure you certainly learned a lot about this issue. And how did you put what did you learn that you wanted to put into the film to tell in a story?
Well, since I had this many reference that I had, it was kind of tricky or even risky to work the subject of gender identity, because it's very easy to say, and I hear people saying, oh, I use a few stereotypic elements in the film, and it was very important since I'm I'm working. My character is in the point of view of a trans male, so female to male. So it was. I had a few script advices in my film. It was important to keep this vision or this seduction of um, the male universe. And since there was another thing that I get really inspired in the film. It was the social and political context from the 70s. And this period, it was inspired from the political social context in Brazil in the 70s. There was a military regime. My father, he was a parachutist on that time during this military regime. So that was the punch that I was needing to put something personal in the project, since I needed some connection, some relation with this child and with this father. I went to my childhood to bring this reference. And that man, we can see that parachutist. That's my father, exactly. He was machist, he was always defending that view. I mean, I was born, as my gender in my identity was connected. So I tried to figure out if it was different, if I was completely different. I mean, in this point of view. So it's very interesting to see how much I got influenced by this relationship with my father in the film. So maybe that's why the film works, because I put it.
I got a very strong sense of the parachutist in the film, so I think it does, and that's interesting to hear afterward. Has your father seen the film and seen this part of it?
Well, my father, he unfortunately he got sick and he's almost blind. I didn't have the opportunity to show it, because if I show it in a small screen, I didn't have the opportunity to show him the film in a big screen. But I think I will do it soon. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Maybe he will get very emotional, because he's more than 80 years old already, and he will get very emotional, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to prepare myself.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. So I'm also wondering, because you've picked a topic which is quite interesting, and I guess very current right now too, is what is the feedback you've gotten from those who've watched the film?
Well, it's unbelievable. For example, I in the past 2-3 weeks, I showed the film at least for two trans. And I mean, first it was for me important how would be the feedback for the trans community, because I'm touching a subject that it's not connected to me. So yeah. Of course I must be very careful. So their opinion for me is important, because I don't want to touch something that to have some kind of machist point of view, or some kind of I mean, I'm not machist, but I could do it something that could. So till now, all the trans that saw the film, they were very touched, very emotionally touched. So that's for me the most important. I mean, of course, I like to have prizes, to have the film selected, and all the professional animation branch, they see the film as something visually interesting with good story. But for me, I did this film with trying to be careful with what I want to say. So their opinion, it was very, very touching. I was very, very surprised.
That's great to hear. I mean, one of my questions that I wanted to ask was, what was your you know, as you're creating this film over 8 years, what is that ultimate goal you're pursuing? And it sounds like you might have just answered that. Like, you know, you're getting the success in terms of like on paper, where it's in 140 festivals and awards and things like that. But would that be the ultimate goal that you're pursuing, to connect with the trans community with the story that you're telling?
I mean, let me say that that's the 8 years I worked in this film. It was the first 5 years was not. I mean, the entire time was not on full time. So I had a lot of other works besides of the working on the film, but it was something that I learned it. I mean, for this film, for me, will be a lesson for my whole creative process that I will do in the next projects. That this film was my first professional short film. I've been working in the animation field for for 20 years already, more than 20 years, but it's the first professional film with co-production, doing something more ambitious.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot. I learned how to co-produce with other countries, since this film was a co-production between Portugal, France, and Belgium. So it was a bit crazy to
What does that mean exactly? Are you talking about the financing? Like you
the
got funds?
finances and the team. Yes, I had this team for example, almost all the sound was done in the Belgium, and some of the animation in visual post-production was made in France, and mostly of the artistic team came from Portugal.
I feel like we're
So
going off on a little bit of different topic that I do want to explore. So how do you make that happen? Do you just knock on Belgium's door and say, "Hi, Belgium, I'd like some music," and then that happens, or like?
well, yeah, the good thing is I started. It's about almost 10 years that I work from home, so it doesn't scare me, the lockdowns and
Yeah,
being at home. I mean, uh, it's a bit stressful when, of course, when you hear about the numbers. Actually, like since the past week, the number are being the highest in the since the beginning of the pandemic. So it's very hard, of course, but I get used it since about 10 years that I get used to work at home. So the good thing was that mostly of this this work we did with the remote distance. So we worked with my team. The person that worked more with me during the film, during more long time, in more like in full time, we just saw we were just together like twice, and we spent 1 year and 2 months, something like that, working all day, and using remote distance. So then for example, for the production, for the Belgian production, I had a, a producer there, and we started we talked a lot about how would be the strategy to do the film and the sound. And I realized that it would be very interesting to work with musicians there. Not musician, we didn't work with musician because the composer was a French composer, but all the Foley sounds, all the sound design, the mix was made in Belgium. So I start to find and to get some connection with all these professionals from the field. And I said to my producer, my Belgian producer, oh, I would like to work with this person, with this person, with this person. So then he contacted them. So
So how did you get this producer in the first place? Is this a friend of yours? Was this a connection? Like,
there's a connection with the French producers.
so you were already working with French producers.
Firstly, yes.
Yeah.
Firstly,
And
yes.
how did I guess I'm wondering, like, say I want to start a short film right now, and I want to make it of the same caliber, like 13-ish minutes, full production, animation, sound design, etc. Where do I begin? Like, how do I make a connection? Do I look for a grant? Do I talk to some studios? How do I
For
get them to trust
example,
me? Like all this, so many
yeah, yeah.
questions.
I mean, I don't know exactly how it's in Canada at this
Yeah.
moment with the funds, everything. So, firstly, in or in Portugal or in France, I try to apply for funds of development. Okay, for example, I can get development, or it's not development, but it's really the beginning of the script. I can get the funds in Belgium, no, sorry, in France, and I don't need a producer to get this fund. This
Okay.
fund can come directly to me. In Portugal, that it's not possible, but I work with the studio, call it BAP Studio, and with them, of course, I talk with them. Oh, I have a new project, and I would like to apply for the development funds. So I developed it alone, this application, but then if the project, if it's positive, if they say okay, yes, the jury of the Cinema Institute, they say okay, we'll give to you. I need to talk with my producer and to send and to how to say, they must to apply for a second time and say, it's not for applying, but just say, okay, we agreed to work with Alexandre Siqueira in this new project. So it starts like this. I mean,
Okay.
with this short funds, and then of course and since in Portugal or in France or in Belgium, there are not so many production companies for animation shorts. So if you are in the field, it can be quite easier to know that company or that company, because we just talk with our colleagues, my colleagues for example, in France. I know much better than the all the field, the animation branch in France, because I studied there in a school, in a French school called La Poudrière. And in the school, I get a lot. I get a lot of connections with producers, with animators, with directors. So yeah, I learned a lot about animation.
Sounds like you have to play almost a sort of game to make it happen. How much? So, you worked with a number of countries and producers and a big team. How much creative control at the end of the day did you have over the story, the visuals, all that stuff? Were you able to stay true to what you really wanted, or do you have to give up some control with these different partners?
I had a lot of freedom for the rights. I had a lot of, when I have freedom, it doesn't mean that I want to do everything all by myself. I like to have some feedbacks from people that I really trust. I like to have feedback. So, for example, we had a partner in France. The film was supported by a television channel called Arte. And on my student film that I did 10 years ago at this French school, it was my first time I worked with television channel. And I had a very, very good experience to work with the responsible of this channel, Hélène Vessière. So she, I had like a very nice way to work, like a ping pong, when I was doing my graduated film. And with Purple Boy, it happened again. So she gave me, I mean, not so many ideas, but many things that was quite mystical that she said. And when I read that, I thought, oh, but I think I had already. I thought about that, but I didn't put it. I don't know why. So it was like very interesting the way that we worked it together.
Nice.
Then for the, I mean, the time that I had less control, it was probably in the end for the compositing. Even it looks really, I mean, it looks great, but if we had like a bit more time, probably I would do just a little feel.
I mean,
a few styles.
I understand that, but you know, deadlines, you have to give and take a little bit.
I mean, it's only about visual. I'm saying
Yeah.
visual details. Since I'm much more in the visual, and I like and things that I develop in my mind and on sketch. So yes, just the feel details that I wanted to be different. But yeah.
They're honestly, they're probably only things that you notice in your mind and nobody else sees. So sorry, I just wanted to know what is your day job? You said you've been in animation for 20 years. You've made a number of short films. What do you do besides short films?
I mean, I worked in many other short film as an animator.
Okay.
Or painter, or mostly as animator and painter, because sometimes I must do some animation is already done, but then I need to clean and to give a different visual. I worked as an illustrator. I'd love to do illustration, and sometimes press illustration or poster.
You have a lot of experience and all this stuff. And I think the visuals are very strong. So I guess your sense of that comes through in the film too. I'm wondering, you said you learned a lot through this process. What is the number one thing that you learned through making a film of this caliber with so many partners that you're going to take to the next film? Hopefully there is a next film. So like, what's the biggest thing that you're going to do differently this time that you now know about?
Well, it's something that I had on my mind. I want to have a little bit more control of the production. It means to be.
So how will you do that this next time? I'm in charge this time.
It's yeah. I mean, I need to have a balance of to have the control of the project, of the control of the project, and all the ambitions. Because Purple Boy, yes, for a first film was quite ambitious. It took a long time. In my next film, I want to be much shorter on production and even on time. For example, Purple Boy has 14 minutes. I'm working in my next short, and I hope that we'll have, I'm not sure yet, I can say really exactly the number, but I want to be less than 7 minutes, or at least 7 minutes. So
are you condensing story and things like that from what you learned from
to be much more to simplify. Yeah, I would like to simplify. It's possible to have very good films. I tried to. It's not very difficult to find very interesting short animated films with this time of around 7 minutes. So I would like to simplify a few things on the backgrounds. I mean, on the number of characters. Yeah, being much more condensed, and to be a more not so ambitious with the with co-production. I mean, not but so more. I mean, since I'm much more involved with the studio here in Portugal, I would like to keep much more of the artistic aspect here in Portugal, and then see what we can do abroad.
Makes sense. So it sounds like with Purple Boy, you broadened your reach to work with a lot of different people and come up with this thing together. And now you're trying to simplify with what you know to work well and whatnot. It makes sense. I was going to ask you what's coming next for you, but I guess you're already working on something. I don't know how much you want to
Yeah,
expand on that.
yeah, it's a very tough subject. I mean, the next one. I mean, I'm even it's talking about this subject now, and with with all this pandemic, it makes even more tough. But it will be about euthanasia.
Hmm.
And it's curious because here in Portugal, it was in the parliament they approved it, the
Okay.
despenalization
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
for the euthanasia in the past year. So it's something that it was curious because I was not I was writing this. I started with this idea already when I was almost finishing Purple Boy. So I didn't know that this could happen in Portugal this month. So since that it's a very I mean universal subject, I like to work with the topics a bit hard and things that we can communicate with people, and at the same time trying to be a bit I like to use symbology, metaphors to combine some poetry in the animation, because since we are doing animation, I like to see this why
Yeah.
I'm using animation to do this. So for me, it must be like something.
Oh, for
But I
sure.
will put. I hope. Let's see. At least 1 year and a half for the for the scripts, and maybe let's see if in 3 years the film will be done.
Nice. Well, we'll have to look out for that. In the as we're wrapping up here, is there any final thoughts you wanted to share?
Well, it's very interesting because since we are in all this period of pandemic, and we can't go, we can travel, but at the same time we are traveling, like talking talking with you, having this conversation. Probably in a normal time it will be different. So the good thing in this moment is that we can easily be connected to people, to talk and to share all this stuff. So well, I hope that that in a very near future we can be, of course, together and to have.
Go to film festivals.
Yeah, I miss a lot. I miss a lot. I miss a lot. I was almost going to be in no, in the festival of Regarde.
Hmm.
It's a very great festival in Canada. It was like exactly in the moment of the pandemic started on March, and I was invited to go there,
Oh
and
man,
it was
so
canceled.
disappointing.
But yeah, this will pass, and I'm really looking forward to come back again for the festivals.
Yeah. Well, I am too, and I think that's a good sentiment to end off on. And animation is such a great way to connect with other people too. So, thank you so
Yes.
much, Alexander, for coming on the chat. I really appreciated hearing about how you made Purple Boy and what went through that and everything.
Thank you
So
very
thank you
much,
so much.
Frederick. Yeah.
Thank you. And if you're listening and you want to get in touch with Alexander or follow his work or check out Purple Boy, you can do so by checking out his Instagram and his website. And I'll include those links in the description of this podcast. And thank you so much for listening. That's all for now. Okay, bye. The music for this podcast was composed by Will Farmer and the graphics by Daniel Abensauer. I encourage you to look them up if you enjoyed their work.